This portion of New Day Northwest is sponsored by the law offices of Molly B. Kenny.
In the list of conversations to have before you get married, money is at the top. So this morning, we are running through the do's and don'ts and the real essentials when having this talk. Please welcome lawyer from mollybkenny.com, Molly B. Kenny. Very nice to have you here. How you doing?
Thank you.
So let's talk first of all about how you even broach this, because as soon as you say prenup, most people say, oh, really? Are you planning to get divorced? And that's not what it's about. It's about planning, right?
Absolutely.
For the future and knowing what you're getting into. So how do you broach this, first of all?
I think talking about your finances is like part of any other part of the planning process. You pick a venue, you pick a caterer, you talk about your finances. And I think it's just in the interest of increasing your success rate. Financial issues are one of the biggest causes of divorce.
Yes,
so
we know that to be true.
You get it out front, you talk about it before you get married. I think there are two critical things you need to talk about. You need to talk about how you're going to handle your money after you get married. Are you going to have a joint account? Are you going to have separate accounts? How are your bills going to get paid? The second thing you need to talk about before you get married is a full disclosure of all of your assets and all of your debt.
Don't keep any secrets along those lines.
No, because
at
some point it's going to come out, and it's better to have full knowledge as you move into your marriage than to have it come out and be a surprise after.
Well, it's not only good financially, but obviously trust building. It would be bad to have a surprise like that after you got married. So let's talk about a few specifics. We are a community property state, correct?
Yes, we are.
There aren't that many left.
There are 7 states in the United States.
Which is interesting.
Community.
Okay, so what does that mean? What are the implications?
That's a complex question, but what it means is that, for example, your wages after you get married, regardless of whether both people work, become community. They are owned by the community, because when you get married, you become a legal entity. Mm-hmm. It's not just a romantic and an emotional relationship. You are a legal relationship. So your wages become community. Property that you buy, if you buy a house, a car with your wages, that becomes community property.
No matter who's making the money,
no matter
to you as
who's
a unit.
making it.
Are there areas that people typically overlook?
In terms of
community property, these kinds of things, or do they know what they're getting into?
Well, some of the big issues, and this again is why you need to have full disclosure of your assets and liabilities, are some of the big ticket items. People may own houses, they may own vacation houses, 401ks, profit sharing, pension, stock options, stock grants. And those, if you have those before marriage, they are your separate property. But after marriage, if you continue, and again, this is all very complicated, but if you continue to contribute towards some of those items, they then have a community property component.
Element to those
yes.
sums. Okay, so you need to know that. Now, if you're writing out a financial contract or some sort of understanding, are there templates that are out there for you, or is this all completely individual?
There are a lot of templates that are out there, but I would absolutely say you need to consult with an attorney for your own particular circumstances. This is not a form you can get off the internet. There are some other forms you can get, will forms off the internet, but prenuptial agreements are so unique to your particular circumstances that you need to make sure it fits you and your needs and the marital unit's needs.
And we're referring to this as a prenup, but you can do this after you get married too, right? After you nup, if you want to?
You can. You can do it postnuptial.
Yeah.
It's far better to do it before marriage, because then you don't have the impending wedding as sort of the an impetus, oh yeah, I better agree to this or we're not.
Okay, so you've already said disclose all your debt and your assets. Now, if you own significant debt or property, then you want to really look into that, and that's an area of special attention. And then when would you recommend, in terms of timing, how soon before the wedding do you want to bring this up? Because obviously the night before is not a good idea.
The night before is not a good idea. And prenuptial contracts, if they ever get challenged in court, the court will look very carefully at how they came about. Were they fully negotiated? Were they freely negotiated? If you do it the day before, that's not freely negotiated. So I would recommend people start having the conversation at least 6 months ahead of time. And so that it can be negotiated, just like you negotiate where you're going to have dinner on Saturday night or where you're going to go on vacation or your honeymoon. So you start 6 months ahead. It gives you a couple months for drafting and going back and forth, and nobody feels pressured. You have full disclosure. People have time to get adjusted to all of that.
That sounds like a good idea. Now, lots of people are getting married for, excuse me, a second time. They're blending families. There may be stepchildren, college education to be paid for, who's going to inherit what, all of that. I would think that circumstance would really need some discussion.
Absolutely. And that is also another circumstance where you probably really do want a written agreement. Again, it just lays out the financial plan. How are we going to pay for my children's college? Are your children going to go to private school? What's going to happen if I were, if we were to get divorced? What's going to happen to our property that we own together? What's going to happen to the property we owned before? Is there going to be any spousal support? And again, it's an opportunity to have a full disclosure and full conversation so that everybody's needs are met and you know what your financial plan is.
That makes sense to me. I would like the idea of coming to an impartial person such as yourself to help, go through that. Of course, when I got married, we were penniless and childless, and it was very easy.
You can still do a postnuptial.
I think we're in this together at this point. There's nothing more to discuss. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
we
Margaret.
appreciate it. For more information or to get help in your future financial planning, you can find a link to Molly's website, mollybkenny.com, on ours. Next up,